Welcome back to another episode of Lock Stars. My name is Justin.
I'm Jordan.
Let's get it started.
Can you feel the power?
And we're back. Turn that down some. What's up, man?
What's up?
You always have this blank expression on your face. I don't know why. You're like a depressed Bob Marley.
Excuse me, I'm not, freaking
Rasta.
dancing on my freaking toes right now.
You're just always disappointed. Don't you play this game religiously?
That's why I'm disappointed.
My God. Sometimes I think you're a pessimist because,
I'm very optimistic.
No. You're or what is it? No, sorry. I think it's masochist is the right word. Like you just, for some reason, you just do things you don't like. I don't know. You just do. You like doing things you claim to not like. I don't know what it is. Toxic, stupid. I don't know what to call it. But anyway. So you wanted to talk about pendulums today. You wanted to do another complaint or another rant about how bad this game is.
I'm not saying how bad it is.
You do this, yeah, you do, you do it.
Just because it has a problem doesn't make it
starting to become
bad.
a pessimist. Like, why do you never say anything good about the game?
I mean, the game got some problems. I'm just saying.
I mean, I don't know. So, well, actually, don't you like pendulums?
I do like pendulums. I like pendulums a lot. It's my favorite summoning mechanic.
Okay, so why?
I was so excited when it came out. Do you know how exciting it is to set 5 scale and just summon a bunch of monsters at once? That was such a big dopamine hit.
Yeah, it was a very unique form of summoning.
They all get destroyed. Oh, oops! Summon them again. That's great.
Yeah, it's very, very unique, very, very interesting.
Like,
but the topic today is the problem with pendulums.
Not necessarily the problem. Not the problem with pendulums. Just like the problem that Konami and the rest of the community have with pendulums.
Interesting. Okay, that could be interesting.
It's like
rare W for you. Extremely rare.
Common, super common.
No, rare. The lack of intellectual inside you surprises me every day. I'm surprised we're brothers.
Excuse me if I'm not just like outwardly, expressing my intelligence. I just
it's just all internal all the time.
Yes, it's all internal.
Oh, okay.
Never seen one.
Whatever you want to tell yourself.
Never seen one of those memes. It's like, oh, what I say is this, right? And then what I think is like this big, planet of topics.
Yeah. I've heard of that. It's called lack of communication skills.
Sure. How about I just don't like talking to you?
Well, you can say that, but you can say it. But you just...
I don't like talking to people because look what they, because weird people like you.
Weird people like me. Well,
anyway, back to pendulums. I don't know why everyone just hates pendulums. Everyone hates pendulums. Everyone. Like, even when they first came out to now, they're just like, pendulum ruined the game. It's like, it's practically racism against pendulums, bro.
I don't know about that.
It definitely is. I'll get more into that a little bit later, but I love pendulums. All right, so pendulums, I don't know why, but I was like, for some reason, this wasn't recently, but I think it was last year or something. I was just surprised. Not surprised, but I guess I didn't remember, so I guess I was surprised that pendulums came out in 2014 with Duelist Alliance, which is surprising because Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon's the face of the box, and I completely forgot it even came out that early, but because during that time pendulums weren't doing anything because Duelist Alliance also came with Shaddoll's and the whole meta was like Burning Abyss and Necros, and everything else.
Is it Duelist Alliance?
Yeah.
The Satellites and stuff came out?
I don't know. I don't think it's
the Satellites and BA and Shaddoll's, they all came out in the same box. Right?
I think so. I think I think they all came out around the same time, or at the same time in.
Yeah, that was an insane box. Type
Yeah, I
art.
guess. Yeah.
Was that Duelist Alliance?
Whoops.
You have heavy types.
I don't care. Yeah, it came out in Duelist Alliance, Teller Knights.
Oh, that's a good point.
So
Was he the only pendulum that came? No, he wasn't the only
It
pendulum.
wasn't
that
the only.
came out. Odd Eyes.
No, it came out with like other like normal pendulums and what is it called, the Performer Pals and everything.
Oh,
It just
yeah.
didn't come out with like a cohesive. It wasn't like a big cohesive strategy. That's my point.
Right. Well, the new mechanics aren't. They're not ever good in the first box.
Well, in the first set, okay. Well, it depends. It depends what you, because pendulums are different because they come from the main deck. So like, no one's going to be using pendulums in like a regular deck, right? Pendulums have to be its own deck. So that's what made a difference. Like when Xyz and Syncos first came out, people were using like they weren't their own
toolbox.
strategy, but people were still using them in their regular decks.
Right. It was a toolbox.
But pendulums, they're a different story because they have to be their own deck or they have to be included in decks. So the fact they have to be included in decks, that's what made them like show up less when they first came out.
Right, because it originally wasn't popular until the next box when
Right.
Cleese came out.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And then people were like, I think it was a lot of confusion. I remember I was confused too. It's like, oh, like what are these things? Like half spell, half monster. There's two numbers. Does that mean they could be different numbers?
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole rearranging of the field. It was a little bit confusing, a little bit complex. And then they had two effects. I think pendulums are the reason why we have like the first edition at the bottom now.
Really? What?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No. Has that always been a thing? Oh, you mean at the bottom? Never mind. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like first edition period. Sorry.
No.
Oh, do they do that for all cards now?
Yeah.
Oh.
As soon as pendulums came out, they had to do it for all because obviously they couldn't put it in the regular.
Right. Just say what? Stay consistent or not consistent, but
Yeah, so they wouldn't have to keep changing.
imprinting.
Yeah, so they wouldn't have to keep changing it. And then they added the face-up extra deck, which which when you think about it now, it's a wild concept. I mean, well, when you think about it now, it's normal, but like back then, it's just a wild like a face-up extra deck. I think some people were confused about the Xyz pendulums. Someone recently tried to Xyz summon an Xyz pendulum from the face-up extra deck, and I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Right, so it seems like even people today are still confused on how pendulums work, right? And then they don't go to the graveyard; they go.
Actually, I mean, actually, when you think about it, that would make sense. It would make sense. I feel like you could be able to do that. Like you could see summon from the face-up extra deck.
No.
You should be able to do that.
No, it's stupid.
This is to be consistent with like mechanics. I don't know. It just makes sense to me.
No, that's only for pendulums.
I guess.
Anyway, but then they don't go to the graveyard, but they touch the graveyard before they go to the extra deck. So that way,
They can be banished off.
that way they can be banished off freaking DeFi or macro.
Mm-hmm.
And they still go to the graveyard if you use them as Xyz material because they have to go from the field to the extra deck. But since Xyz material aren't on the field, then they have to go to the graveyard. So there's a bunch of confusing, right? So that's like I think that was the first thing people just didn't like.
I think that would just make sense. That rule doesn't make sense. Yeah, they're not on the board. That was always known.
Yeah. But I think the complexity of it just didn't really resonate with people. And then the fact that I think some people, I don't remember, but I heard someone just say like, I think it was Simo, but I could be wrong. It was like, oh, this is just a once per turn soul charge, right? Because before we had soul charge, but now we come with pendulum
Best spell
monsters.
card in the game.
Now we can just summon all our monsters again, right? And then, but at first they weren't really doing anything. People were just using it to summon just like big monsters like Jinza and Apex Avion. Since Apex Avion should just return.
Yo, that was a wild time. That was a wild time.
I think that was my first time going against the Pendulum deck. Like someone just summoned Apex Avion. I think it was Apex. It was either 2 Apex Avion or Apex and then something else. Either way, but Apex Avion could return to the hand, so you just Pendulum summon it again next turn and things like that, right? And then they work as spells in the spell and trap zone, or in the pendulum zones at the time. So you could just use MST and Twin Twisters and things like that, right? So I think the big part is people just thought like, oh, I can summon big monsters now all at once. I think so. They're just like, oh, this is what broke the game, right? But I don't. So I get it. But even with all that, they didn't do anything at first until I think the next set with Cleese, right? And then people didn't really like Cleese, at least like the later versions where people just use it for like an anti-meta strategy. I think Cleese were pretty much fine, at least since all they did was just utilized the pen mechanic like to the best. I wouldn't say to the best of its ability, but they probably did by like implementing the tribute summons. Like I could just pendulum summon, or I could just tribute summon them and they get effects. I think that was a good strategy.
And did Towers come out in that original set or in the next set?
No, Towers came out in the next set, I think.
Oh, gotcha.
That was the only bad part about Cleese.
Towers.
I know you like decks like that, so
I like decks with like defined boss monsters.
Okay, a defined boss monster is different from a thing that just said you can't touch it.
Yeah, it's big as fuck.
No, little PP energy.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's literally it's huge. What are you talking about?
Anyway,
it's kind of like I remember Steelswarm because Steelswarm they have a defined boss monster. It was Hercules.
Okay.
It just wiped the board.
Okay, but you can interact with Hercules.
Yeah, that was the annoying part about it. Like it just wipes the board. I'm like, bro, I just want to win this turn. It's my boss monster. And Towers did that. It was great.
Bro, but Towers literally said, hold on, we're going to read Towers right now, just because you want to be.
Bro, no, there's no need.
No. Towers literally says, unaffected.
That's all it says.
No, yeah, that's all it needs.
That's the only word on the card.
Like,
cannot be put in paragraphs.
Summon, tribute 3, and now I have a 3K beat stick that's unaffected that can also, what does it do? It makes you discard.
How did people get over it again? I forget.
Usually by beating over it. We didn't have.
Oh yeah, that was the only thing. That was the only.
There's this card.
We didn't have kaijus back then, did we?
No, we didn't. But there's this card that Shadal's played called it was a rank 4. It was Crab King. You remember that?
Yeah,
Basically, I think it was
a number,
I think it was 0-3, and then you can make it 3 by detaching, and then you could just beat over it.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
or crash into it.
Yeah.
But besides that, stupid card. Anyway,
right.
Back to pendulums. So after Cleese, we eventually got the infamous Pepe deck, right?
Right.
Which just brought the pen mechanic up to like an 100, right? It's considered one of the best decks of all time. Was one of Yu-Gi-Oh's Tier 0 decks. So powerful, it made them release an emergency ban list, only seen one other time. I think it was in 2000. Was it 2009? I think.
Was that what was that?
It was
It wasn't Dad, right?
Yeah, it was Dad.
Oh, okay.
In Teledad format.
Oh, gotcha.
And I even remember I was disappointed because I had to take out half my deck for that. And I think the ban list after, I had to take out half my deck again.
Yeah, because you like toxic decks, dude.
I like toxic decks, but you're okay with Towers and Matt.
Yeah, I'm okay with like I guess a slow but steady strategy where you can get like your big guy, where you have like a toolbox of things before you can get your big guy out and just devastate the board. I think, and you like those kind of strategies where I don't know. I feel like it's a more aggressive strategy where it's like high combo decks. Where I don't know what it is. Where you can overwhelm where you can get a lot of resources and like you can overwhelm the opponent with those resources. I don't know. You just like you just always like those kind of
but
decks.
like those decks are also fun because you can be more creative.
You can be you can be creative in my kind of decks.
No, you can't.
Yeah, you can.
No, you cannot.
Yeah, you can be pretty creative when you win.
No, no.
I don't know. We might make it.
That's why Pepe is one of my all-time favorite decks. You know, even though it was like a toxic deck, at least at the time, it was a deck you could be more creative in because you can implement things like the Draco package. You know, Draco Pals were a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I implemented the Metal Foes at one point. I love the Performer Pals. Some of my favorite cards of all time.
It's kind of
those cards are so cool.
It's kind of interesting. I think pendulums are kind of they seem like one big archetype. If you
I was about to get to that. I think
nice.
someone came out, someone who had like a designer at Konami, basically said how Pendulum is supposed to be like this big. How this is how MBT, but like this big soup archetype where you can just put all like the good ones in and just make a deck out of it.
Yeah, it's kind of the closest to like a modern day like pile deck when you think about it.
We're gonna get to that too. We're gonna get to that too.
All right, well,
because I got some gripes.
I'm glad we're on the same wavelength here.
God. But with that, because of the Pepe deck, after even after like the whole the whole Arc 5 era, Duelist Alliance format, like I guess people call it, like people just stopped caring about pendulums. Like, even Konami, like they after Arc 5. They nerfed it in Master World 4 when Lynx came out. It was like, oh, like these pendulums go to the extra deck now, but now you can only summon them from the extra deck to Link zones. They even kept that after the revision. They moved the pendulum zones down to the two far end spell and trap zones, which I did not like at all. I think that took away how special they were. And then you don't see them in Vrains, Sevens, or Rush. The three.
Really?
Yeah, they don't show up at all.
You see the other.
I don't know if you see the other mechanics in Rush or Seven, since those are like the speed duel ones and Rush duels. But you don't see it in Vrains. You can see every other summoning mechanic in Vrains, even Ritual, but you don't see pendulums.
Right.
They don't show up in any. They don't even show up in any of the rarity collections. And like I said, you have to either summon it to the extra monster from the extra deck. You have to summon it from the extra monster zone or to the link zones that other things point to. So it seems like they just want to like forget about it, right? Ever since Arc 5 ended, we've gotten literally two pendulum decks, two pendulum archetypes ever since Arc 5 ended. And they're mid. I think it's called I forgot one's called Valence, and I think the other one, I forgot what the other one's called. It's like related to food or something, I think.
Oh, the dreamy one?
No, not that one. Doesn't really count as a pendulum archetype.
Oh.
Because they just have the one pendulum. Yeah,
okay.
that's like their way.
Oh, I didn't know it was just one. Okay.
But that's just their way of like trying to be like more creative with the pendulum mechanic. It's like, oh, you have a girl who's like sleeping, and then she goes to the extra deck where she's like in bed, and then and then you're able to summon monsters that she dreams about. And as you're summoning monsters, it's like her like waking up. And it's like a whole theme, right? And then there's also more recently there's the Valmonicas, which is basically supposed to be like the devil and the angel on your shoulders, and then you summon more monsters, and then you summon like monsters based on like which ones you like you use or quote unquote listen to, right? So that's
That's kind of fun.
yeah, like that's them trying to be more creative, which is fine. But I just wish we would get more, just regular just pendulum decks. Like, but I think people always say it's hard to design around a pendulum deck, right? Because I think we talked about it before, like the pendulum mechanic has to be, I guess, inherently broken or inherently busted. Just because it takes so much resources to set it up, right? Like,
Right, you're already using 2 cards.
yeah, you have to use, not only do you have to have a high scale and a low scale, you have to have a monster or monsters to summon, and these days you have to have hand traps. And people don't consider your hand good unless you have like at least 2 hand traps. So you have to have something like monkey board, what is it called? Skullcrabat Joker, and earlier on, what was it? Cleafort Scout to search out another scale. Mm-hmm. So you have to have cards like that, which is like not. I don't even think that's necessarily bad. We do have 1-card combos that aren't terrible, that aren't bad for the game. Like what is it? You normal summon, search invocation. You know the card I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I forgot what. That's a good 1-card combo.
Yeah, I don't really think that. I think it's fine if it's broken. I think we have plenty of broken decks, so I think it's fine that you can have a broken pendulum deck, especially if it inherently needs to go get its resources. That's like
I don't think I think it's possible to make a mid-range pendulum deck, but I think I don't think Konami, despite we're gonna get to it, but despite what we have today, I don't think Konami wants to release a pendulum archetype or a pendulum deck that will just dominate the meta again, right? Nowadays, even if people do have a pendulum deck, all they do is literally just vomit out a bunch of monsters and a bunch of summons. Like, it literally takes them like 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes just to do their freaking combo. It's almost like the old Quasar decks, pretty much. And even before, they would bust out negates with Baron, Apple, and things like that. Which I just do not like. I don't like that at all. But ironically, decks just do the same thing these days, anyways. I don't think Pendulum was ever the problem. Like Pendulum itself, it was every other monster. Like, what'd you do? You summon, like back in the day with Pepe, you would summon the Cyber Dragon Infinity, Satellarknight Ptolemaeus, Traptrix Rafflesia. It was like, those are Xyz monsters. You made broken Xyz monsters, and now you just use the pendulum mechanic to like take advantage of it. Mm-hmm. Like, the pendulum mechanic in itself was never the problem. Mm-hmm. Every deck these days just performs the same big wombo combo.
Yeah.
So, like, people need to stop hating on pendulums. Like, at least pendulums had the decency to summon their monsters at the same time.
Okay.
Like,
are you saying it's just a courteous archetype?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I summon my monsters all at the same time. That's it. But no, now I have Yugioh, where I just go through a whole big combo to put a bunch of interruptions.
Yeah.
Summon, special, destroy, yada, yada, yada. When Pendulum, scale 1, scale 2, summon. That's it. That's all we were doing.
I mean, that wasn't all it was doing, but okay. It still had the wombo
But the
combos.
fact is, it was other monsters that were the problem. And now we have Link monsters, which are a bigger problem. But people want to forget about pendulums. Did you know? There are, even though pendulums have literally were out 4 years before Links, there are now more Link monsters than pendulum monsters in the game.
No, I didn't know that.
That is crazy. That just shows the.
What about relative to the other mechanics, though? Do you know those?
We could look it up, but I'm pretty
on-
sure there's more Xyz monsters just for the and more synchro monsters than Link monsters.
Well, we don't have to look it up right now. I was just wondering.
Yeah, there's more Xyz monsters and synchro monsters than
Links.
yeah than Links. Yes.
Oh, gotcha. Where'd you look? Where'd you even find this?
What, that information?
Yeah. Like how-
Internet.
Obviously, you didn't get it from.
I'm on Dueling Book. Just if you look up synchros, there's 25 pages for synchros, and then there's if you look up Link, there's 23.
Oh, okay. I thought there was like a.
Or
like
22, whatever.
a stats thing you were looking up. I'm like, who posted this? Yeah, go ahead.
What was I about to say? But even the pendulum monsters we do get, they're like useless for pendulum decks. Like I said before, why does Melodious need pendulum monsters? They didn't need that. All they did, like they had pendulum monsters, and even when they pendulum summon, it's almost like unnecessary. They're like they maybe get to there's maybe like one monster. Like for when they're extending their combos, there's maybe like one monster that's like, oh, I can just pendulum summon this one monster. That's like useful. It just makes it like it just seems redundant.
Yeah. I do think people think about it in terms of I think they think about it too much in terms of pendulum summoning, right? Because you don't really need to pendulum summon the deck, not necessarily. But I guess it did need more resources for its fusion summons, if that makes sense. So if the two new pendulum monsters, I mean, if they were just monsters, right? You'd have to use unless. Like there would just be more ways to get those monsters out anyway. Right, but with pendulums, right? I guess you save the amount of cards the deck could use to fusion summon, because you could just one it can go get the other one, and then you could just fusion summon from the pendulum zone. So in terms of you're not necessarily meant to pendulum summon, but they're a better tool to use for its fusion summons, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure, but I still think it's redundant. It just feels like they could have just made them something else. Like, like instead of like set this in the pendulum scale, go search. It seems like they could just like discard, go search, and then when this is added to hand, you special summon, then search, or you just search the fusion spell, and then you just use the fusion spell to like basically fusion summon with monsters from the graveyard or something like that. They could have just done that.
Yeah,
so,
but
it just makes it. All they did was just make it so you just use like it just seems like they just did it just to like add new pendulum monsters.
Yeah, but then you don't get. But if you fusion summon from the ground, I assume like you would like banish. In terms of like your analogy or your example, you're using more resources because I'm assuming you would just banish from the graveyard when you can just have 2 extra monsters to use in the extra deck. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's the same. It's like the same thing.
No, but
all they're doing.
But you have access to those 2 monsters though. That's why they made them pendulum.
Well, they still have access to the monsters. They still like they have a whole other monster that they can recur them back from the grave.
Yeah, but those 2 can't. They have to make those 2 recur from the grave. When you can just put them in the pendulum in the face-up extra deck.
Yeah, but you would still need like 2 the same 2 ones just to pendulum them out. They're basically useless once they're in the face-up extra deck.
Yeah, but then I don't know. I guess, but in terms of your example, I think like they're better utilized as pendulum monsters, as tools.
I would disagree. I think it would be the same thing if they did make them pendulum monsters and just took like another route.
But then like they also use monsters to like. But then they also have monsters that special summon that have effects when they are special summoned. So I mean, it's kind of that's also a useful tool to have when you just pendulum summon like Arya, right, or the other one.
Well, yeah, but they also have like 3 other cards that like special summon those monsters. That they
Yeah,
have,
but that makes it just
that they
a
have
li-
easy that they have easy access.
But that just makes it like that much like it just makes it that much easier instead of like burning resources.
I mean, they're not burning resources. It's
I think
like,
they are.
It's
They
the
were
same.
born, but like it's not just in terms of that though. It's like it's in addition to having those two as being able to fusion summon from the pendulum zones with those 2 monsters, and they're just more. I think it's just better. I think it's just.
I mean, you could say it's.
I think it's better to have them as pendulum monsters than as I guess regular monsters.
I think it would just be the same thing. All they had to do is just tweak it. All they had to do is just tweak it a little bit.
I mean, if all things being the same, why not just make a pendulum monsters then?
Because they don't need pendulum monsters.
If all things being the
that's
same,
the point.
I mean,
Like they're not fixing anything with the deck. They're just adding pendulums in the game for the sake of adding pendulums without actually like fixing the whole pendulum mechanic.
I think it's
like-
I think it's better for them to be pendulums, and even if like the special summon thing is like marginally good, right, or like marginally helpful for the deck.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not helpful or anything. I'm just saying it's redundant to make them pendulum monsters. They could just
That's inherently saying they're not helpful.
Like-
It was redundant.
like what I'm saying is they could have just made them like any other way. Like all they had to do is like with what is her name refrain, the songstress refrain. All they had to do was just if they just discard it and then add a Melodious monster, which basically is what it does. You just send a pendulum skill and you add one, or you dump it. My bad. If you normal summon, you add it, but the dumping doesn't really do anything for you. The only thing that really helps them is that you get fusion summon from the pendulum zones. That's the only thing it does. When it doesn't really matter, you can just.
You rather than banish from the graveyard?
I'm not saying I'd rather have him do it. I'm just saying it just doesn't make sense. You're not helping pendulums like at all. You're just adding pendulum cards to archetypes that don't need pendulum monsters. Like what we did.
It's not meant to help the pendulum. It's meant to help the archetype.
Okay, you could just did something else. You could just release an actual good pendulum monster.
What?
It's like
What?
it's like we just
This makes no sense.
just did with like Necrod. We just reviewed Necrod. They added a whole ritual pendulum. They're a ritual archetype. They don't need a pendulum monster. The only other pendulum monster they have is the Zephyra, and that card barely works. It's like that card barely works with them. It's just another ritual spell.
Yeah, but I mean, I have to. If I remember, yeah, but it's just I don't know. It depends. It depends on.
My point is, it's like they're useless, and
I guess.
and the new pendulum cards we do have, like they don't help anything for pendulum. They don't do anything for pendulums. What we need is an actual like pendulum archetypes that are more mid range, and also pendulum cards that every deck is able to use depending on the situation, like Archfiend Eccentric. Archfiend Eccentric, like people used to run that. Excuse me. Even outside of pendulum decks, just because how useful it was. That's what we need.
So you just want like a toolbox of pendulum monsters? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we can have a toolbox of pendulum monsters and a actual good archetype.
Sure.
That's what we need to like. Not only that, we should get back the OG pendulum zones. That's what we need, because I like them. Second of all, we should ban anti-spell and D-barrier. And then
Now you're just going too far.
I am not
I was
going too
agreeing
far.
with you up to
I
up
am
to that
not
point.
going too far.
No.
Ban anti-spell and D-barrier.
No.
It
Maybe
is-
anti-spell, right? But not D-barrier.
Yes, ban D-barrier.
No, that's ridiculous.
That is not ridiculous. You shouldn't like. You know what's a.
They should ban it when dual terminal comes out, but like just for like maybe a year, and then after that they can bring it back.
Maybe a year.
Yeah.
They just need to they should just ban D-barrier period.
But if they're gonna have if they're gonna have these power, if they're gonna have the DT archetypes, if they plan to have the DT archetypes as a powerful part of the game, I think they need to ban D-barrier, but that's just me.
They should just ban D-barrier.
I digress. No, they shouldn't. You're such a
Yes.
hater, dude. You are such a hater
that
of
card is
good
stupid.
cards, right? You just want to be just unhinged in your.
So you
just want to be unhinged in playing the game.
so
for
you
some
think it's
reason.
completely fine if you're playing Gemini's, activate D-barrier.
No, that's why I said it should be banned during the DT format.
So you're saying it should be banned when I can play my favorite deck. But
I didn't say that.
But
I didn't
that's
say
literally
that.
what you said.
No, but I literally said that if they plan to have the DT archetypes, which are around, ritual, fusion, and Xyz, and D-barrier is obviously going to be used significantly in that format, so they should just ban it.
They should just ban it. Period.
No, they should. No, I
Yes.
like D-barrier.
That is a lingering effect that you can barely interact with.
I get for a turn, yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's for a turn. The fact is you can't like play around that card.
I think you just hate just,
You know what's a good alternative? You ever heard a card called Spellbound?
I don't think so.
It's a quick play spell. It's basically the same thing, but it only works on the face-up monsters that are currently on the field.
Like what? It negates its effects?
All face-up monsters your opponent currently controls cannot be tributed or used as any material until the end of the turn. It's the current face-up monsters.
Like material for any type of summoning.
For any materials.
No, but I also want to prevent you from summoning those type of monsters. That makes no sense.
Okay, the point is D-barrier stops like a whole stop you
I
from
don't
doing
want
a
an
whole
alternative.
mechanic.
I want to play unfairly. Yes.
No, that's the problem.
Man, you think I want to play fairly out here?
That's the problem.
What kind of game is this?
You're a toxic person, dude.
You're the toxic person. You just want to be unhinged in your play
You
style.
want to stop your opponent from playing altogether. What are you talking about? It's okay if I overwhelm you.
No, I want to put your deck in check. That's all I want to do. I'm not stopping you from playing.
That's literally what you want to do. You're literally okay with summoning Masterpiece that's unaffected
Yeah,
by
but one,
shut up.
I have to.
You're okay with summoning Masterpiece, which is unaffected by 2/3 of the card pool, and then activating D-barrier, which stops me from doing a whole freaking summoning mechanic. That is toxic.
Yes, but that's
saying
okay. That's a broken board. That's like an ideal situation.
That's the whole point. It's broken.
But the point your standard is that I have to have this ideal board, and you don't want to play against my ideal board. When
It's not about having an ideal board. It's
like
about,
half the time you're not gonna have that kind of board. You're probably gonna have in the case of Masterpiece or True Draco, you're probably gonna have Masterpiece and a trap and maybe a face up spell. Right, you're not gonna have the deep barrier.
Bro, the point is that is a very possible situation.
Yeah, so
that's not like a rare thing where I could just there's a whole, I can have a draw deck that's that's Exodia Turbo, but that's not a consistent thing. You may be annoyed, but it's not a consistent thing.
I just like putting decks in check. You don't want
That's
to
not
be
putting a deck
You
in
don't want to be
check.
kept in check.
That's not putting a deck in check. That's getting rid of a whole. That's being toxic. Getting you're saying you can't play and you can't play against me.
Yeah, for a turn, for one turn.
That's the point. All it takes is a turn.
Okay, but that's not a problem with the card. That's a problem with the game.
So one way to fix the game is stop using toxic cards like that.
No, one way to fix the game is stop making turn one decks.
Sure,
Win
sure,
turn
but
one decks.
that's a different conversation. But you should, but that doesn't mean, bro. You can't just say, one evil is okay to exist because we have this evil. That's not okay.
No,
Neither should exist.
No, the evil is when there's one evil being done, you don't need to fix the other one. Like, there's no point in like fixing one when there's clearly clearly the main evil here is that Konami's making insanely powerful decks that you could win on the first turn with. But like D-Barrier wasn't a problem when it first came. It was a good card, but it wasn't like a toxic card when it first came out because you weren't able to win in the first turn. You're like, okay, I just need to survive a turn, and if I could like put up some proper defenses, then yeah, I could survive the turn and I could play on the next turn. But now that the game does last 1 to 2 turns, yeah, it now is devastating.
Okay, but it's not an okay card to exist. It's still a toxic card. That's like saying since Vanity's Emptiness wasn't
I was just about to bring up the same thing.
Good when it first came out, then it's still it's okay for it to exist. Period. That card was never okay to exist. It wasn't what's the word? It wasn't future proof.
Okay. I mean, that's a whole different discussion. You can't I don't know, like that's not a fair assessment just because and I don't even think Vanity's Emptiness it comes from the olden days of just powerful cards. D-Barrier, I think D-Barrier is completely fair, to be honest with you.
That is not a fair card.
It is 100% a fair card.
It stops a whole summoning mechanic for free.
What are you talking about? It has to be set and I have to wait a turn. That's not free. What are you talking about?
So what? So does 6 Cents. So does what is it?
No, but that's in addition to be like not an insanely powerful card. It's not insanely powerful.
No,
not like Vanity's Emptiness or 6 Cents.
Those cards are just as broken.
As D-Barrier?
Yes, D-Barrier is a broken card.
I disagree.
It stops a whole summoning mechanic.
It's a good card.
For free.
It's a good card. It's not broken.
It is broken.
I
I
disrespectfully disagree with you.
It's a lingering effect that you can't interact with, or you can barely interact with. It's not at least with like other cards that might stop you, right? At least with, let's say, like one of the what are they called, the barrier statues, you can attack over them. They have low attack.
Okay.
They're you can interact with those.
Mm-hmm.
But with D-Barrier, like, there's no way to play around it. If I'm playing a fusion deck, if I'm playing branded, and that's like my main strategy, and you just activate D-Barrier, like, I can't play anymore. D-Barrier is just a broken card, dude. And you can't say like, "Oh, I can use it, put your deck in check." You have to use that. You have to use that out of that context, because you can't just say like one evil is okay because of another evil. Just because a deck's like summoning a whole bunch of times using a certain mechanic might be bad, but that doesn't make D-Barrier okay. It's not okay.
I think it is okay.
Like, Spellbound is a way better alternative because
it's trash.
Like,
what are you talking about?
You can't compare it to a card that's broken and just call this card trash.
Broken. It's just good.
Like, it's a broken card.
What are you talking about? There's just ways. Okay, you can't use anything on the board. All right, I'm just try to get other things on the board, and then I'm going to continue with my combos. That's not the purpose. The purpose for me is to stop you in your tracks. That's the purpose.
You stop me in my tracks by using like your other resources, not just one card that just wins you the game. Now, freaking win.
Okay, that's the problem with the game. But
you gotta disagree with
this.
Okay,
I like good cards and you don't. I'm sorry.
You gotta use that out of the context of the whole game.
I'm sorry.
You keep saying like, the game is like this, so D-Barrier is okay. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying D-Barrier is just a really good card. You're saying it's not okay because the game is broken. So that means it's the problem with the game.
No.
Card.
I'm not saying it's not okay because the game. I'm saying it's not okay because it stops you. It stops you from doing a certain
for some reason
action.
You just don't like good cards that stop you in your tracks.
Like things like Massive Restrict is better, even though it is still like a stupid floodgate. But at least you can better interact with that card. D-Barrier you cannot interact with.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
I don't know. That is not fine at all.
I think it's fine.
You're just a toxic person.
I'm a toxic person?
Yes.
Have you seen the decks you play?
Like,
I'm a toxic person.
You are a toxic.
No, because
person.
you just don't want. You just don't want to be stopped. I want to
Like-
stop you from
like-
doing your stupid combos. I'm like, bro, all right. I'm just activated. I'm like, slow down, bro. I can't follow what you're doing.
You
So
keep,
I'm gonna just do this.
You keep referencing it. You keep referencing it back to the combos. Imagine the combos.
It's not the It's just
it-
stopping your tracks. Period.
No, imagine the big combo decks didn't exist. It just pretend the big combo.
So
decks,
it'd be fine.
No,
it wouldn't be broken.
fine.
It wouldn't be broken.
It
at
wouldn't
that
be
point.
fine. It would still be broken.
Yeah, you're just stopped for the turn. There's plenty of cards that stop you for the turn.
No, but it can't be interacted with. That's the point.
okay.
As soon as I activate Shadow Fusion, you just activate that, and I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, get fucked.
Like no,
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
no, that makes you a toxic person.
It is not a toxic
That's
person.
it. No, yes,
no.
it is.
No,
Because
definitely
it's not okay. Even without the big combo decks, that's not an okay
It's
card.
definitely not. I think we're just all right. We're gonna disagree on this. So let's move back to
Yeah.
pendulums,
God, you're lame. I swear.
bro. Calm down. Calm down.
Either-
You're being triggered right now.
I'm not. You're just a toxic person.
You can keep calling me toxic, but I'm still. I think you're. I think the same thing about you. All right, go. Get back to pendulums. If you want to talk about pendulums.
Pendulums. Anyway, you ban anti-spell. You ban D-barrier. You bring back our OG pendulum zones and make a pendulum archetype that can that's more mid-range. That's all we need to do is to fix pendulum monsters.
That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do to fix pendulums.
Yeah. You need and on top of that, we need to bring back other cards like Heavy Metal Fool's Electromite. Electromite doesn't do any it's not broken anymore. Like I know you didn't play during when it was a big thing, but it's still banned, but we need to bring it back. It doesn't because every other deck is just more broken than any pendulum deck could ever be. And we need like pendulum monsters, and those pendulum monsters that we need in those archetypes, they need to gain they need to be able to gain advantage based on how you use them. Like if I have it in the pendulum zone, I can use it one way. If I summon it as a monster, I can use it another way. They should implement other ways, like having monsters that you could fuse from the pen zone.
Wait, so you're saying we should have this? You're saying we should have this to fix the pendulum mechanic, but just Melodious can't have it?
Bro, I never said that.
You just said it's redundant.
I never
you just said that.
I never said they couldn't have it.
You said it's redundant.
I'm saying, bro, Pendulum Monsters, they're releasing Pendulum Monsters for archetypes that don't need Pendulum Monsters. They could have made that any other monster. They literally could have made it not a Pendulum Monster, and it would have been okay.
Wait, but you're saying
it would have been the same.
But you're saying the like other archetypes. You're saying we should. So, or what are you saying? Because you literally just said, yeah, we should have these. We should have these kind of pendulum monsters that can fuse from the pendulum zone. But you're saying it's redundant for Melodious.
Does Melodious need Pendulum Monsters?
It was a good tool for that.
That wasn't the question.
What are you talking? Do they need pendulum?
Do they need pendulum
No, because
monsters?
that's a weird question. Because it's I think that's a weird question. Because what deck needs like certain types of cards? It's not that they need cards. It's that it's a good tool for them to have.
That's fine, but do they need the Pendulum Monsters?
Okay, no, the premise of the question is ridiculous.
No, it's not.
Because that's saying like what deck, like you can say what deck needs
Does
support.
Necros need a Pendulum Monster?
In terms like again, the premise of the question is ridiculous.
How?
Because it's not that they necessarily need the monsters. What deck needs support, right? It's that this card, even in this form, is a good tool for them to have.
Bro, okay. If they
have one pendulum monster, Necros
Dude.
now. They have one pendulum monster. So yeah, in that context, they don't need it in that form, right?
Okay, so why would they release a Pendulum Monster for archetypes that don't need Pendulum Monsters?
I didn't say that Melodious didn't need the pendulum monsters. I said that it's a good tool for them to have in this mechanic. In this form.
Dude, what I'm saying is they do not need Pendulum Monsters because they are a fusion-based deck.
Right.
They like
Okay, they don't need to pendulum summon.
Their pendulum monsters are redundant because they
And
could.
they're not redundant though. It's
All right,
good. It's
hold
good
on,
to have in this. It's good. I think it's good to have in that form.
Hold on. So, Melodious Refrain says if you normal summon or special summon, if this card is normal summon or special summon, you can add one Melodious monster from your deck to your hand. If a Melodious fusion monster is special summoned from your field while this card is in your face up extra deck, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. And then it says for a pendulum effect, you can target one Melodious fusion monster you control. Send it to the graveyard. No, send one Melodious monster from your deck to the graveyard. If you do, the targeted monster gains 200.
Right. Okay.
For whatever. Right. So if it said something like if this card is normal summon or special summoned, you can add, and then if you fusion summon, you can summon it from the graveyard. Would that be just as good?
If you fusion summon it, you could just summon it back from the graveyard.
Yeah, if it's in your graveyard, you can summon it back from the graveyard.
No, but a marginal way it's also helpful for them to be pendulum monsters because you can more easily special summon out the things that have effect when they're special summoned.
Bro, dude, they have Bloom Harmonist, the Link monster. They have what is it called? They have their new one, Baka.
Yeah, but those can only be special summoned to.
They have their
that can only be special summoned to her arrows. What are you talking about?
Okay.
Okay.
So what?
Okay, so you want to make it marginally less powerful? You're making it marginally less powerful,
dude. They have
just to not have the pendulum.
They have two spell cards and two monsters that special summon them, and they have another. Does this one special summon? Yeah, this one special summons too. One of their first monsters special summon. So what I'm saying is, you're trying to make it like 0.1% easier for them to special summon their monsters.
Yeah,
out.
I mean those marginal ways to make it more powerful can make a difference because it can make a difference,
dude. It makes it redundant because they have other ways to special summon.
It's not
all it does. Like literally, if you pendulum summon, you're pendulum summoning maybe one monster, and then even if you're pendulum summoning more than one, the other monsters in your hand can special summon themselves.
No, but I mean, the reason these marginal effects, the reason these marginal ways are good is it's easier to get to work with worse hands, right? If all you can do is fusion summon, if all you can do is get Baka and then get the scales back, then if you have the one that fuses when she special summons, or the one that maybe gains attack, that's marginally better than having something that recycles from the graveyard or something.
That them being pendulum monsters do not do anything for the deck. If they are,
I think it does. I think it does. It clearly does.
Dude, if Refrain wasn't a pendulum monster, would it be and all it said was special summon from the graveyard. Because it gives you a resource. It gives you a resource to use to fusion summon.
No, but it's also it gives you a resource to. It might give you a resource to fusion summon. I mean, Mike can test this out. Maybe we can treat them like that. We can test it out to see how much, if the deck would be just as powerful, or even or marginally less powerful, or marginally more powerful. But I think having those two as pendulum monsters is fine. I think it does make it marginally more powerful. I think it's fine.
No, because if they weren't pendulum monsters, they'd be the same deck. It'd be the same deck.
They'd be less powerful.
It wouldn't be less powerful.
It'd be
it'd be the same thing. Because
but you can say that about anything. You can say that about you can say this card. You can literally say that about almost a lot of decks. You could, if this card was done in this form, it would be essentially the same thing, right? That's all you're saying.
No, what I'm saying is that them being pendulum monsters is useless. If they didn't make them pendulum monsters, it'd be the same thing because they do not need.
Then what's the point?
Monsters.
Okay, even if I were to give you that, then what's the problem with making them pendulums? I don't get it. If all things being the same,
because they're not releasing pendulum monsters that are okay for pendulum decks.
that are okay for pendulum
They're good
decks?
for pendulum decks.
So it's because they're not releasing like a toolbox of pendulum monsters, right?
It's not just a toolbox; it's entire archetypes.
Okay, so because they're not releasing like toolbox of pendulum monsters and whole new archetypes of pendulum monsters, then that's why you have a problem with Melodious having pendulum monsters.
Yeah, because okay,
ridiculous.
if they were focusing more on like the pendulum mechanic to help the pendulum mechanic, it would be fine. My point is they're focusing more on these other archetypes and giving them pendulum monsters like Melodious and Necros, which don't need pendulum monsters at all, instead of just giving us archetypes and cards that good for the pendulum mechanic.
Well, in terms of Necros, that monster's probably not even going to be used. Probably not.
That doesn't matter though.
Yeah, but like it's okay. So I think that's a bad example.
It's not
so,
a bad example. The point.
Okay, yeah, they don't need.
Okay, look.
You could say they don't need a pendulum monster, but they also don't need that particular monster either. But in terms of Melodious, yeah.
If I say the United States is helping this country over here, knowing our country has problems, don't you think
that's irrelevant? That's a horrible analogy.
That is not a horrible analogy. My point is the pendulum monsters the pendulum mechanic needs help to make it better. To make it better for the game. But all they're doing is focusing they're giving pendulum monsters to these other archetypes, and
that's not focusing on, but that's not like, they're not thinking like, hey, I'm focusing on making the pendulum mechanic better. They're focusing, I'm giving support to this specific archetype.
Bro, the support is fine. They shouldn't be pendulums. If they weren't pendulums, it'd be fine. Because
I don't see your problem with them being pendulums.
They're just releasing pendulum monsters for the sake of just giving us pendulum monsters.
No, it's not. No, I think it's good that they're in that particular. Again, I think it's fine that it's in that particular form. I think you are just like, don't you think you're just being like petty at that point? You're just like that's just a rant just to rant. Like, okay, why are they coming out with pendulum monsters with these archetypes, but they're not making the pendulum monsters better, or the pendulum mechanic better?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a problem. Like,
I don't think. Okay, you could say, yeah, they should make the pendulum mechanic better, but that doesn't mean that this archetype shouldn't necessarily get pendulum monsters, since it's not a pendulum deck. Like that.
Dude,
it's not just like I said. I don't think you don't have a pendulum just because a deck doesn't have to necessarily need to pendulum summon, right? It's just the mechanic can also be a good tool for whatever reason, like the things I said before. And I'm sure there are other archetypes. There might be other archetypes or decks like that where the mechanic itself, like them getting a certain support from a mechanic, even though it's not like that kind of deck, is it could be good for them.
My point is they're releasing pendulum monsters.
I see your point. Point.
Okay, what's my point?
I just said your point. Your point is that they're releasing these pendulum monsters for things that aren't pendulum decks, but they're not making them pendulum mechanic better, like coming out with different tools like pendulum monster that are tools for every kind of deck and making other pendulum decks, right? That's your point?
Yeah, that's the problem.
I just don't see, like, first of all, those 2 points seem like mutually exclusive.
They're not.
Like, they are. They literally are. Because, like, you're saying, hey, they're not doing this, but they're doing this for this archetype over here that don't necessarily need the pendulum. It's irrelevant.
That's very relevant.
It's irrelevant because that's not because they're not coming out with those pendulum monsters for the pendulum mechanic. They're coming out for those pendulum monsters for the archetype.
They don't need pendulum monsters.
You could, like I said, you could say that about any deck. They don't need certain type of. They don't need this certain type of card, right? You could say that.
It doesn't. No, what I'm saying, you can't, because what I'm saying, you can't. Like, they don't need pendulum monsters. They don't need to make pendulum monsters for Melodious.
You're just mad that they're pendulum monsters.
They don't need to. They need to make pendulum monsters for generic.
That's not a problem with the game, though. That's just your personal issue.
Okay.
Like, so like them not being pendulum monsters it's not gonna that's not gonna fix or help the pendulum mechanic. I can see your points on how I can see your points on how like the things you said would help the pendulum mechanic.
I know,
but like I
think
it's just like something to rant about, saying, okay, why do these things get pendulum monsters? Why does this specific archetype get pendulum monsters? I can see.
Okay.
I can also see your point why certain decks might not need a pendulum monster. Yeah. Necros don't need a pendulum monster, sure, because it's a largely ritual deck, and depending on I'm not creative enough to say, okay, if this card, like, what could you give that archetype in pendulum form that would make it marginally better? But in terms of the Melodious, yeah, they made the archetype like not only better with support, but marginally better by making them at least at the very least marginally better that they are pendulum monsters.
Okay, but the point is, it doesn't matter if they're pendulum monsters. They could have been something else. They released the pendulum.
Okay, you can say about any cards.
Shut up. They released the pendulum monsters just to release pendulum monsters.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, because it's for a specific purpose. What are you talking about?
They literally could have made it any other. They literally could have made them not pendulum monsters. The deck would have been the same.
Okay, they could have with the same effects, with the same.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So
like,
saying,
you got tweak. You probably got to tweak them a little bit, but
no. But the difference is the difference is what you have two more. In your example, what the difference is, you have two more bodies on the board instead of them in the scales where you can special summon the things that have effects that when they're special summoned.
Dude, you keep using the whole bro. They have like 3, 4, 5 other effects that special summon the monsters. That's their whole gimmick.
No, but like, okay.
So like,
but that does. But they don't have no. But in terms of like, it makes worse hands. It makes worse hands slightly better, and it makes it easier to summon out those monsters. What are you talking about,
dude?
It doesn't matter if they have like, okay, they have every deck has its own effects on how to get their monsters out. Right.
No,
but this makes it just slightly easier, and it's slightly better, and it's slightly better in that way. We can like test this out. We can play them like, okay, we can pretend if like those two monsters were monsters and said they'll have those effects, and we can maybe play around with different types of ways to play with those cards and see if they would be the same or better. But I think at that point it would be up to. Like, we'd have to do a lot of like testing on that. Like, it'd be up to, and at that point it'd be up to opinion on whether it's better or not.
Dude, do you think it's okay if we have a pendulum problem, right? And we say, okay, we need to. If someone just says we need to release better pendulum archetypes and better pendulum cards for other decks, and someone just says, no, let's give these decks pendulum cards instead. That don't use the pendulum mechanic in any way, who don't need it. You think that's okay?
That is a ridiculous analogy, because you're saying they're doing one or the other, right? But they're not necessarily they're just doing the one. They're not doing the one as an alternative to the other. They're just doing the one and not doing. Does that make sense? And they're just not doing the other.
But you're upset. That's essentially what they're doing.
No, they're not doing it one as an alternative to the other. No, they're not.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, is that okay? We have a pendulum. We have a that's my point. No, we have a pendulum problem.
It's a false premise.
No, we have a pendulum problem, and they're not fixing it.
Right.
They're just releasing pendulums just because they want to, just for the sake of just releasing a random pendulum monster.
No, they're doing it. No, I think they're doing it for in terms of Melodious, they're doing it for the archetype.
Okay,
I think they did it for the archetype.
You can say in terms of Melodious. You have to like generalize it. Melodious, Necros, even the Valmonicas or the Numerelias. Like the whole generic premise.
I can't speak to those other archetypes, but
okay, but the whole generic thing, they're just releasing pendulum monsters for the sake of releasing pendulum.
But it's not as an alternative to fixing what you call the pendulum problem.
Sure, whatever. But they're releasing they're releasing pendulum monsters just to release them. They're not fixing.
Okay, that's fine to be upset that they're not doing the main thing you're saying, but that doesn't mean
that's the whole point.
No. But you're upset. But you're saying, yeah, it's fine to not be okay with that. But you're saying, okay, these archetypes shouldn't get pendulum monsters because this.
I'm not saying they shouldn't.
You're saying like this. You're saying because this isn't happening, this shouldn't happen either.
I'm not saying they shouldn't. What I'm saying is
you're saying it's redundant.
I'm saying they don't need it.
Right, so it shouldn't happen.
They don't need it, so why are you doing it?
Right, so exactly. So
they
you're
don't
saying
need it,
shouldn't
so
happen.
why are you doing it instead? Why are you doing this instead of actually giving us actual good pendulum decks?
Okay, that's fine if you want better pendulum decks and better pendulum tools. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean these particular pendulum monsters aren't good for this archetype. Right?
I didn't say they weren't good.
You're saying they're redundant. What are you talking about?
Dude, the fact that their pendulums are redundant. If they could be the same card, they could be the same exact card without being pendulums.
No.
But
it wouldn't be the
saying.
exact play style. What are you talking about? It just wouldn't.
Yeah, it would.
No, it wouldn't.
Yes, it would.
It literally wouldn't.
Them being pendulum
No,
monsters, pendulum summing has
better.
nothing to do with their play style.
Yes, it does. With that particular,
No, it
how you
doesn't.
specifically play the deck today. Yes. What are you
No,
talking
it
about?
doesn't. They do the same thing
Literally
as they've
does.
always done. They fusion summon and special summon all the
No,
monsters.
but you can pendulum summon the monsters. I mean, I'm not going to.
You're not pendulum summoning in that deck.
You are pendulum summoning in the deck. It's not a main way to.
One time in the deck, one monster.
You are pendulum
That doesn't
summoning
do
in the
anything
deck.
for the deck.
It's not just one
all
monster.
They gotta
though.
do is,
It can work for different. Again, it can be argued that it's marginally good, but it's still better than having the alternative you said. You're just mad that they're pendulum monsters, and they're just not doing.
They listen. If
You're not doing
they
this other
gave us,
thing.
if they did the same, if they could do the same thing, but also give us a similar good pendulum decks.
Okay, then why are you upset if they? Okay,
Because they're not doing that.
Okay, then the main thing. Okay, you're upset about that they're not. Again, like I said, you're upset that they're not doing. If it's fine that they're coming out with pendulum monsters, if in your scenario, in your ideal scenario, they're coming out with pendulum monsters, like good pendulum tools and good pendulum archetypes, or mid-range pendulum archetypes, and then you wouldn't complain about they're getting this, that the Melodious are getting these pendulum monsters.
Yeah.
But since they're not doing it, you are complaining, which means
Yes.
that's why I said they're mutually exclusive.
They're not
issue.
mutually
No,
exclusive
hold on,
because-
I'm not done. You're saying they're mutually exclusive because whether they do this, because whether they did that thing for Melodious or Necros or whatever or not, it's irrelevant, because your main problem is that they're not doing this main thing you're saying, which is the tools and the art and the pendulum archetypes. Because you're mad about this, so that means the Melodious stuff is irrelevant.
No, it is relevant because they're catering to something else by giving a pendulum.
They're just
monster.
giving support.
That's fine if they're giving support. It doesn't. The support
that's all
doesn't
they're
matter.
doing with those
the
archetypes.
The fact is, they're giving them pendulums. They don't need.
Your problem is
pendulums.
that they're pendulums. I don't say
Yes, that's the whole point.
okay, but it's irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant because
whether they were doing that or
they
not,
don't need pendulums.
No, because they were doing that. You wouldn't say that if they were doing what you wanted them to
If
do.
someone's catering to, if someone is catering to someone else's needs, but not catering to if someone needs something, someone who's close to you needs something, and you don't give it, but you give someone else who's not as close to you, you're catering to them instead of catering to that person close to you. That's a problem.
But it'd be irrelevant whether
It would be
if they were doing that thing you were wanting, that then what they were doing over here would be irrelevant to you.
Dude, if someone is, if I'm catering, if someone is catering to a person they're less close to than one person that their best friend, that's a problem. It's okay if you want to help them out, but you're not helping someone else. You're not helping the very person close to you.
That's a false. I think that's a false equivalency. But
How?
Because you're not, because it's not like they're doing anything because they probably don't feel that they need to fix the mechanic right now. You feel that way, but they probably don't feel that way.
They don't feel that way, dude. That's a problem. They don't feel that way. That's a problem.
I think it's two mutual. I think in this case scenario, it's two mutually exclusive issues.
That's the problem. Is they're not. They don't feel that way about the pendulum.
I think
mechanic.
I think it's just two mutually exclusive issues that you have. You feel that this deck doesn't need pendulum monsters, but they also aren't doing this thing for the entire pendulum mechanic. Right? Those are two mutually exclusive issues.
They're not.
You can say yes, they are, because you can even say, even if I give you that they shouldn't have that, these particular a lot of particular decks don't need pendulum monsters. That's a completely different issue than saying, okay, we need to fix the entire pendulum mechanic.
No, the point is they're catering to something else without fixing the main issue.
All right, you good?
All right, yeah, we can agree to disagree. That's fine, but
all right, you got anything else?
nope.
All right, that was a very interesting discussion, guys. It was the problem. I agree with I mean, yeah, the pendulum mechanic could be better. Maybe they should. I mean, they can come out with more pendulum archetypes and even pendulum. Excuse me, toolboxes, toolboxy stuff. I think just we agree to disagree on some on particular issues. Let us know what you think in the comments about this issue. If you think there should be more pendulum monsters, or do you think majority of the more players like Lynx and less players like pendulum monsters, or even if it's an issue at all. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, turn on your notifications. We're very excited about this Anaheim's next week. This YCS is not next week, but in a couple weeks. And I think I wanted to live stream it if I have the time, and just live commentate. And I think that's going to be really fun on like Streamlabs or something. But anyway, guys, really appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Deuce.